Welcome to this special Italian wine podcast broadcast. This episode is a recording off Clubhouse, the popular drop-in audio chat. This Clubhouse session was taken from the Wine Business Club and Italian Wine Club. Listen in as wine lovers and experts alike engage in some great conversation on a range of topics in wine. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinepodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. And remember to subscribe and rate our show wherever you tune in. Good evening. My name is Joy Livingston. I'm taking over for Stevie tonight. She is presently in Napoli. She wanted to be here, and she may actually, there she is, but her internet is very spotty at the moment. So she may cut in and take over at any time. But she's actually discovering the best pizzas in the South at the moment, and making tons of awesome videos that will go up on our Mama Jumbo Shrimp YouTube channel and on our podcast. I realize I this is not that, but thought I would give it some PR because actually the videos are really awesome. I saw them today. So today's Clubhouse on the Ambassador's Corner is going to be Amy Ezrin, who is going to be interviewing Isabella Oddero. And this is a space where wine lovers and ambassadors all around the world can essentially, pick somebody they really want to interview, and they can use this space to talk to them and connect with them and provide, a learning space for everybody who's listening. So it's really great. And also these sessions are recorded, and they will be released on the Italian Wine Podcast in the coming week. Now, I'm sure that there are other items I am supposed to say at the beginning, but I know that I've got my buddy Leica here who is going to definitely help me out later if there's anything important I've missed. And Amy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Amy. How's it going?
Hi. Great. How are you?
Good. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a real quick intro here, and then I'm going to let you introduce Isabella, and then I'll go away. But just there's a couple questions I have to ask you first, because of course Stevie loves to talk about learning objectives and things like that. So I know that, and stop me if I've got anything wrong here, but you're one of the 3 members of the Piedmont Guy, a national importer of artisanal wines from the region of Piemonte in northern Italy. And you're represented across North America by its most qualified, passionate distributors. And you're also in-demand wine consultant for the wine and spirits industry. And you've done a lot of stuff. I can see that right now. This is very long. You launched your own box wine named Sandy Giovese. And that's awesome. You recently worked for the Italian Trade Agency in the New York office as the manager of the wine desk. Gosh, just so much. And I'm going to skip to the end because you're a graduate of the University of Chicago. You're, of course, a Vinitaly Academy ambassador. Wow, and a WSET Advanced Certificate holder. There's just a lot of stuff here. And you are from Connecticut. Do you currently live in Connecticut?
I live in Brooklyn. I live in New York City.
Okay. Is it cold there?
Actually, no. We're having a nice day today. It's killing. It's been unseasonably warm. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna get to the good part now. Tell me, why did you choose Isabella to interview tonight?
Yeah, I chose Isabella, with full disclosure. Number one, I am honored to represent the Oddero family in the U.S. or in North America with the Piedmont Guy. So, number one, we have this professional relationship, commercial relationship, but also, Oddero is one of the most historic producers of Barolo. Their history extends over 200 years. They work in so many different vineyards and crews and incredibly important crews in the Langhe. All of that coupled with the fact that Isabella is a great person to talk to. She is a great conversationalist. She really embodies the history of this estate, and her passion for what she does is important. So, there's a lot of elements here that can, really facilitate a pretty in-depth conversation.
Awesome. Okay. And so, with that in-depth conversation, what kind of things do you think we're going to learn from this? Like, what are the learning objectives that we can expect?
Sure. I mean, certainly, we can get a really interesting sort of historical perspective on the Langhe from Isabella because of the history of her family's estate. But I also think that, Isabella's young. She's a woman working in an industry that's been dominated by men. And I think that she can really speak uniquely to sort of the future of the Langhe, of Barolo, of women working in that area. And I think we also have an opportunity, because of the wines that they produce, to talk in depth about some of these specific crus. And I know that as Vinitaly ambassadors, we all love to talk about dirt. And she is, really well versed in talking about some of the classic soil types of particularly the Barolo and Barbaresco areas.
Awesome. Okay. Well, without further ado, Isabella, are you there?
Sì, ciao, I'm here. Hi.
Buonasera. Okay, so I'm
Buonasera.
gonna stop talking now, and at the end, I will probably, if there's time, because sometimes there really isn't, do a question and answer period with the guests. Okay.
Great.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Amy.
perfect.
Okay. Hi, Isabella.
Ciao,
It's nice to
Amy.
have you
Ciao to
here.
everybody.
Thanks for
Thank you
making
for
time for
having
us
me. It's an
today.
honor.
Yeah. So, Isabella, I think, a lot of people in the wine world are familiar with your winery, and many people have had the opportunity to meet you. I know that you've been working in the estate now most of your career. I know you went out and lived in Milan for a bit. I know you've studied at the classic, high schools, and done a few other things outside of the wine world, but that this is where you are today. And we're really excited to talk about your estate. I will say that you are an amazing representative for your family, and it's also my pleasure to know you as a person. You are not just a member of this winery and this family. You are a mom. You're a busy lady. So let's get into the conversation about Oddero. Like I said, I think a lot of people are familiar with your estate, but let's just dig in a little bit to the history of Oddero and how we got to today.
Yes, thank you a lot, Amy, for such a wonderful presentation of me. It's an honor to be with you now, today, and sharing this conversation. As you said, yes, I started to work at my family estate in 2007. And I've been working side by side with my aunt, Christina, since then. I have to say that I am proud to belong to one of the oldest families in our region, in the Langhe area, for the production of Barolo wine. So we do not have a precise year when the business was established, when we started our production, but we made a quite precise research some years ago, and we found notarial deeds and some parish acts that take us back to the end of 1700s. So this was the moment when my family built the house where we still live, and where we still have the cellar where we age our wines and we vinificate our wines. And then a few years later, they started to cultivate some of our local grapes and started the production of the first wines, which, of course, in the first moment, the wines, they were mostly dedicated to the local consumption for our family and for the local families. But then, starting from the mid of 1800s, things started to change a lot. And wine production became the focus of all energies of the family. And I have to say that if I look back and I think of the history of my family and the territory, I can find two people, two personality of my family that really are very important and made some crucial decisions that completely changed the years after, and had important consequences on the future and the history of the company. The first man is the grandfather of my grandfather, and he was the very first one to battle Barolo with our family name on the label. This happened in 1878. So at the moment, there were very few wineries in our region, and he had a very brilliant idea to battle the wine. So instead of simply selling the wine in bulk like it was used at the time, he started to bottle the wine, and he put our family name on the label in 1878. So he was the one who designed the Oddero logo and the label we are still using today. He was, I have to say, a very smart and avant-garde entrepreneur, because he understood the quality of the wine aged in the bottle was much better for offering more complexity with the time. And so he started from that moment to have more requests also from Genova, Milano, so outside of the borders of the region. And thanks to that, year after year, we started to have some requests. We still have some invoices of wine sold in bottles to Zurich, to London. And of course, all the energies of the family started to be more and more concentrated in having more consistency and more quality in the vineyards. He also was one of the first vine growers in our area to use sulfur in the vineyards to treat against the oidium. Oidium is a problem, a big problem still today, also because temperatures are increasing, and so we still have to deal with the oidium. And he understood that sulfur could be a good way to limit the damages of this disease that at the time really used to jeopardize the production and destroy the production. And so he, together with the help of the priest of La Morra, who was in contact with the priest of Catania, they were able to have the sulfur from Sicily all the way to Piemonte and have it access and use it in La Morra for taking care of the vines. So he really was a man who understood quality, and thanks to his management, to his decisions, we were one of the first producers to have our Barolo with our family name represented in Europe.
That's a fantastic story. So essentially, thanks to the church, sulfur was introduced into the vineyards of Piedmont in order to manage powdery mildew. That's fantastic.
Yes,
That's
yes.
fantastic. And with
yes.
Sicilian sulfur, nonetheless, right? And where did the sulfur? I think it came from volcanoes. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure. Yes, from volcanoes in
That's pretty cool.
in Sicily. But it is funny to note that
how did they know to use sulfur against this mildew?
Probably it was they read some books or had some correspondenza, some letters with experts in France. So yeah, and but it was very funny to note that the church, of course, still today is very important institution in Italy, but in the past they really could make things happen.
Yeah.
They could really help a lot and change things. So it was an important help. And also in the past, the church used to be owner of most of the vineyards that then with the time were gradually released to private families. Yeah, and the second person that really changed completely the source of my family is my grandfather. They have the common name because both of them are named Giacomo. Giacomo is a very important name for my family. Most of the boys of the family are all Giacomos.
Okay.
And yeah, not big fantasy with the names.
Makes it easy.
And yeah, and he and his brother, they lost their father for a disease just few years after the Second World War. At that moment, the Langhe area was completely different to the reality that we know today. Because this was a really hard moment of deep poverty. This was not an area with industries, and the people, they were really starving. So the generation who survived the war, most of the young boys, the families, they moved to bigger cities to find jobs in the industries. But they stayed with the family. They continued to invest in our territory. And my grandfather understood the potentials of our region. He started to buy, and little by little with the years, starting from the 50s till the 80s, some of the most important vineyards we are lucky to own today and to work with. So he really understood the future. He saw the future. He had a vision of the region many years before other people did. And so he selected with a lot of care some of the most important and historical vineyards. Those vineyards, they were already planted at the time, and they were already planted for specific reasons, because they really were the best Sori. Sori is a Piedmontese word, which means sunny sides. So the best exposure, the best positions of the hills. And he was lucky to be able to select some of them, and he wanted to look for diversities. So he wanted to look for vineyards that had different characteristics, different altitudes, different exposures, and different soil compositions.
And Isabella, was this also because at the time, he was really thinking of making wines that were blends of different vineyard sites more so than the single vineyard bottlings?
Yeah, exactly. So he didn't have the single vineyards in his mind. Absolutely, he's a very traditional Barolo Classico man. He always wanted to look for differences, but with the purpose of blending the grapes with different characteristics but complementary characteristics together, and so to have the Barolo Classico, which is the original Barolo, the first philosophy, how Barolo was born.
Right.
And in the original property was all located in La Morra village. This is where we have the winery. This is the first the first village where we used to own the most historical vineyards. But in the late 60s, he bought Rocche di Castiglione, so in Castiglione Falletto, in the center of the Barolo area. And this was a big decision and a big risk, because you can imagine at the time, the harvest season was so much different than today. It was much more risky to go all the way to Castiglione if you had to pick the grapes in a short time. It was harder and more expensive.
At this time, at this time you had vineyards only in La Morra, right?
Yeah, yes. Okay. Before the mid of the 60s, all our belongings, all the vineyards were in La Morra and in the Barbaresco area, where we had some vineyards for the production of Barbaresco. Only later, starting from the mid of the 60s, he bought Castiglione Falletto, Rocche di Castiglione, the very first vineyard outside of the borders of La Morra. And from that moment, he acquired other vineyards in Castiglione. This is where we have the major part of our vineyards planted with Nebbiolo to have Barolo, Monforte d'Alba, Serra Lunga d'Alba, and later Neve for Gallina Barbaresco, and then also in Vinchio for the production of Barbera d'Asti. So this is his path of acquisitions, and they were all planned by his vision together with his brother Luigi.
That's amazing. And just so we're clear, his brother Luigi now has his own estate, right? So I often see a little bit of confusion even on the level of wine lists and such. But there are two Oddero estates essentially, and you are Paul di Oddero, which is the original estate. Luigi Oddero is your grandfather's brother, who now has another estate. Uncle, forgive me.
No, it's correct. What you said, yes.
I just want to make sure everybody's clear that there's two, so we don't have any confusion, and that you guys are the, as we say, OG Oddero, meaning the original.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for this. Yes. So I am very proud. I mean, I am very lucky. I know that we are lucky because we have the opportunity to work today with very important vineyards and different characteristics in the soil, especially. We are owners today of 35 hectares of vineyards, and about 19 are planted with Nebbiolo grape, giving life to Barolo wine. So Barolo for my family is not only the most prestigious wine, but really the most important wine in terms of volume. It's really the heart of our work and our production.
I heard a fun anecdote. I think it was Davide Rosso who told me this story, that that your grandfather was almost happier in the orchards with the fruit, right? With rather than the vines. That his passion was more in the orchards than for the vines. And obviously now today you guys are, really focused on your vines. Is this a true story?
Yeah, because he worked together with his brother Luigi, and Luigi was really the guy who was in charge of the cultivation of the vines and the production of the wines. My grandfather, I think, was more the mind, behind all the decisions, but he has this passion for different. We used to have much more fruit trees in the past than we have today, and so he was in charge of it as a passion.
That's great.
They were a good team. Yeah, working side by side. Yeah,
that's great. So I want to, if you're ready for it, I'd love to dig in a little bit. We can talk about your farming and vinification a little bit after, but I'd love to talk a little bit about some of these crus, because you really do work in, Rocche di Castiglione, Vigna Rionda, Brunate. I mean, these are some of the most important vineyards in all of Barolo by far. And the fact that you cultivate and bottle each one of them individually is, pretty remarkable for any estate to do. So, and I think the story of how you bought them, we talked about Rocche di Castiglione, which was one of your first. So maybe let's think about, the vineyards as you've bought them, and talk a little bit about, what you bring out of these vineyards. What are the characteristics that these vineyards give you? And, which all goes back to the soil that they're planted in. So, let's maybe think about it starting in La Morra, where you guys have your, cellar, and which is your, home village, so to speak.
Yeah, so in La Morra we own, of course, many different parcels. So first of all, I would like to explain that our property is extremely fragmented. We own many small, tiny parcels, very diversified, so in many different villages. In La Morra, we have several vineyards. I can mention Bricco Chiesa and Capalot. They are two vineyards, very important, some of the most historical for us. But the fruits, the grapes, they are blended together to produce our Barolo Classico, so the blend Barolo like in the past. And we own also a very tiny parcel, 0.45 hectares in Brunate. And Brunate certainly is the most prestigious and historical vineyard in La Morra village. And we produce Brunate as a single vineyard. We started in 2004. With the production of Brunate as a crew, but the vineyard was bought in the 70s. So before all the fruits, they were blended in the Classico, because my grandfather, he was much more oriented into the philosophy of the Classico, and only recently we started to produce single vineyards. Brunate is a beautiful vineyard, a vertical cruise, so starting from the top of the hill till the bottom. And our parcel is right at the top, in the highest part, so a high elevation. It's the highest vineyard we own. It's about 390 meters above sea level. So it's a very fresh microclimate. Probably this one is the one that had the strongest benefit from global warming, because in the past it was a little bit harder to have the perfect ripening, but but with recent years, this is really improving a lot, and it's giving the most beautiful and interesting results. A characteristic, Brunate is part of La Morra, so it's part of the area in Barolo which is called the Tortoni, that is a kind of soil which is of course, the soil we have in the Langhe Hills is a sedimentary soil, a very old geological formation which derives from the disappearing of the Mare Padano, the Padano Sea. So there used to be the sea that 16 millions of years ago, in the Miocenic era, disappeared, and what we have now is different substrates of different elements which are very tightly stratified, and we have what we call the marl. So the gray-blue marl or the white marl, which is a composition of silt, of sand, clay, and calcareous deposits. But all these elements, they can change a lot depending on the position, on the area, on the geological age. And in La Morra, we have a higher
Isabella,
presence
just to be clear, sorry to interrupt you. So we're talking now about Tortonian soil, specifically the Marne di Santa Agata, right? I'm looking at a Masnaghetti map right now, just so I can keep this clear. So these are marl soils, right? So limestone, and you're saying that there's two types one is more of a white soil and one's more blue.
Yeah, exactly. So the Sant'Agata fossili marl is what is typical in starting from the northern part of the Barolo region, so Verduno, La Morra, and then going to the south with Barolo and Novello. And this is the marl which we can find and we can see in Brunate soil, and has a higher presence of sands compared to the other region of Barolo, which is the elevation soil. It's a little bit complicated to explain because there are so many complexities in the elements. But the Tortonian area is a little bit younger than the Helvetian area. The Helvetian area is the eastern border of Barolo region, so Serralunga d'Alba, a part of Castiglione Falletto, and a part of Monforte d'Alba.
Right, and that's also known as Formazione di Lequio, correct?
Esatto, especially Serralunga, we can see the sedimentary soil and white marls called the Formazione di Lequio. And we have a harder kind of soil, harder rocks, with a higher presence of limestone, calcareous deposits, a very dry and poor soil. It's an ancient geological formation. There is quite an important, significant difference in terms of age of the soil. So from Serralunga to La Morra, about 5 to 7 millions of years of difference. And these differences you can immediately see when touching the soil and seeing the shape and the color of the soil. The soil in Serralunga, where we have Vigna Rionda, has the same mineral residuals that they found in the mountains, in the Alps. So probably they really have the same age of the Alps. And they are, less clay, less sands, higher presence of calcareous deposits in Serralunga, a part of Monforte and Castiglione Falletto, compared to the other villages I mentioned before. Sorry.
So I was just going to, so am I correct? So of your wines, and really of the zone, it's almost as if there's, more commonly you find vines in the Marne di Sant'Agata, right? In these Tortonian soils. So little rare, the number of vineyards or the amount of vines planted in the older Formazione di Lecquio, or even in the Arenari di Diano, which we haven't really talked about much yet. Those are a little bit more rare overall.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have Vigna Rionda, which really is a Formazione di Lecquio. As I said, the soil is completely white during summertime. It is so white it almost shines with the sunlight, and
very shiny.
very poor. Very, very dry and poor. And of course, over there, the vines, they are quite stressed for the water shortage, because water is not penetrating in the soil. So they have more difficulties and they are more stressed, and they naturally produce a little bit less, but with higher concentration. So the wine which comes from this kind of soil is generally a more austere expression of Barolo, with more important tannin contains and more important structure. You need to be a little bit patient and wait for it, because when it's young, it's a little bit tighter, but has a very long life and beautiful elegance and complexity in the aromatic spectrum.
Right, and this is why you bottle Vigna Rionda only as a Riserva.
Yes, because this is the wine you really need to be patient with and wait for it. And when we release the wine, it is always so young, with many years in front. I mean, Vigna Rionda can really represent the idea we have of Barolo, the king of the wines and the wine for the kings. This is a wine that can age forever. Yes.
At what point? When did you acquire Vigna Rionda, and when did it become a Riserva?
So Vigna Rionda was one of the last acquisitions done by my grandfather. The vineyard was bought in 1985. And it was produced as a single vineyard, that vintage, and then later in 1989. But it was just a regular Barolo when my grandfather and his brother were in charge. So it was my aunt Cristina idea to age a little bit longer the wine in the oak barrel, and especially to give extra time in the bottle to the wine before release on the market. So we started to have it as a Riserva from 2001 vintage, thanks to Cristina, and it became a 10 years Riserva from 2006.
Awesome.
But today,
so today you're releasing, these wines. I think 2012 is technically your current release. Is that right?
Yes. So because the vintages are so different, of course, they are changing so much every year. It's completely different expression from the other. We do not have one fixed rule for the Riserva. Vigna Rionda is always a Riserva, but we decide, tasting the wine many times and knowing the character of the wine, when is best to release the wine. So sometimes it's 8 years Riserva, sometimes it's a 10 years Riserva. It depends really a lot on the vintage characteristics.
Right. Okay. I want to make sure that we talk a little more also about, you and your Aunt Cristina and some of the sort of changes in the future of the estate. So, I do also want to point, I would like you to just give us the quick description of Busia that you make, because Vigna Mondoka And I know the rules have changed around this word. So in terms of how this bottle will be seen labeled over the years, can you give us a quick little tutorial on that?
Yeah, sure. So with the Consorzio Barolo Barbaresco some years ago, in 2010, the menzioni geografiche aggiuntive were approved by law with disciplinary and legislation. So there are 166 different menzioni geografica. Menzione geografica means in Italian single vineyard selection, and the rules for the single vineyard were defined in 2010. So they delimited the vineyard and they established the rules for the labeling and naming of the crus of the single vineyards. And so Bussia, it's a very large vineyard today. Our parcel is located in the Bussia Soprana. So on the label in the past, it was written Bussia Soprana Vigna Mondoca. Today is just Bussia. So the only name allowed is Bussia. Vigna Mondoca is our own parcel, and this is a monopole because it's like a vineyard inside a vineyard, and it's only owned by my family. And we are in Piampolvere Soprana, so in Piampolvere and on top of Dardile Rose, just to give you an indication because Bussia is quite large. Yeah, this is a beautiful aristocratic Barolo, a beautiful vineyard, a full south exposure, quite a warm vineyard, but good elevation. And the soil is quite similar to the Vignarionda one because it's very dry and rich with calcareous deposits. Probably this is the driest soil we have.
Interesting. Fascinating. Okay. I also want to point out that, of course, you are in Barbaresco. You make a Barbaresco Galena, which is one of the top crus of Barbaresco, certainly one of the top of Neve, the village. Then you also started making, not too long ago, you adventured up to Asti, and you're making a Nizza, a Barbera d'Asti that has become now Nizza DOCG. Can you give us a quick little description of that? Because that's a fun little evolution at the estate.
Yeah. This was the very last acquisition realized by my grandfather in the beginning of 1990s, and he always had a true passion for Barbera. This is why we have in some of the most important positions in Barolo, so very important crus like Villero, Rocche di Castiglione, we have some rows planted with Barbera. So when everybody, of course, produces Nebbiolo, Barolo single vineyard, we produce also Barbera from Rocche di Castiglione and Villero. Because this really is true love and passion. And so when he was offered to buy a small vineyard in Vinchio d'Asti, in the Barbera d'Asti area, which is now Nizza DOCG, he didn't think twice and immediately bought the vineyard. And it's quite strange because generally it's producers from Asti who go all the way to Barolo to cultivate Nebbiolo and produce Barolo. In this case, it's we live from La Mora and we go all the way to Vinchio to grow Barbera there. But this is a beautiful vineyard, a very old vines, steep vineyard, narrow rows, and a special terroir for Barbera. The new project of the Nizza, we immediately took part in it, and we agreed. I have a good expectation. I think this is an area with huge potential. So there is a great relation, price and quality, and they are working very well to establish new laws and limits to improve the quality of the area. So we will see for sure in the future beautiful results. We support a lot of the project.
Yeah,
and we are part
it's a great,
of
and I know it's an old vineyard, very tight spacing. It's a difficult vineyard to work in, so it's obviously a labor of love. I recently tasted this. I was tasting this with Richard Hanauer, who's directs the RPM restaurants in Chicago, and we had all these amazing wines on the table. And he tastes this one last, and he's like, this was not supposed to be the best wine in the lineup. He's like, but I love this wine. Like he just, there was Nebbiolo on the table and everything, and he loved this wine. It's so complex and so powerful, really, which is impressive.
Yeah, it's a beautiful gastronomic wine, too beautiful with food and beautiful evolution. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one wine that I can take around and show people to, get people to understand your estate, because we always have so little of the Nebbiolo to sell, it's always sold out. So, um, let's talk a little bit about both how you work in your vineyards, because this is important, because you've now been certified organic for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And I recently listened to I went back and listened to your interview with Levi Dalton from 2013, and I couldn't believe that it was actually that long ago, because I remembered the interview and I went, oh my God, that was so long ago. So now you
Yeah.
have so much more history with farming organically and everything. So let's dig in a little bit to how you work in the vineyards, and then we can talk a little bit about vinification.
Yeah, I have to say that we realized a lot of improvements in our agronomic practices, and they are all thanks to the view of my aunt, Christina. So she's responsible of our production. She started, her first vintage was 1996. She was working with my grandfather and with Luigi. And then, starting with 2004 vintage, she was in charge, and she finally, after some difficulties with around family, which is quite normal in the generational shift, she was finally in charge and able to make her choices. She introduced the organic cultivation, and we did it gradually. So starting with some vineyards in La Mora, the ones that are the closest ones to our winery, because we wanted to be serious. So we wanted to be certificated, so to obey to a disciplinary, and to be, of course, able to have the good quality. And it is not so easy to be organic in Piemonte. It's a different microclimate than other regions in Italy and in Europe, but we all need to respect the same limits. So there are difficulties in the organic cultivation for sure. We learned through experience. We are very happy with our results. Now it's been many years, because she started the conversion in 2007. So the whole property is now organic, farmed. We also have a lot of interest in the biodynamic philosophy, so we cannot declare ourselves as biodynamic producers. We are not, but we share common points with the biodynamic philosophy, especially concerning the care of the soils. So every year, alternating rows in some vineyards where there is need of, we do the sovation. So we plant the seeds,
Legumes and flowers,
like
yeah.
exactly, herbal essence to improve the biodiversity of the soil, to enrich the soil. Green manure, of course, only if it is needed. And today, every single operation needs to be tailor-made. Not just vineyard per vineyard, but sometimes row per row. I mean, first part of the vineyard can be completely different than the lowest part of the vineyard. So all the operations are so much personalized. And I think that she introduced many details of care. And today, with the new challenges that we have to face because of the general changes in the climatic conditions, the use of synthetic products, they absolutely are negative for the biodiversity of the soil and for the resilience of the vines. So the future is, of course, for everybody, I think, a responsible and sustainable farming method.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely it's a huge undertaking to farm organically in Piedmont. And with 35 hectares, that's a remarkable undertaking.
Yeah.
Tell us a little
and there
about
are difficulties.
your vinification. How do you work in the winery? And I mean, I guess we can focus a little bit on the Nebbiolo, because I think that's going to be the most complex.
Yeah. So I was raised by my family. What I learned from my grandfather and from my aunt is that, of course, quality comes from the grapes. So quality is made in the vineyards. So for us, 95% of our investments, of our cost, it all happens in the vineyards. In the cellar, you can ruin what you do in the vineyards. So we try not to. This is, of course, a strong sentence to say. I just mean that we try to be very, very careful and very delicate. So our hand is to be not aggressive at all. So to be so much respectful of the raw material, of the natural characteristics of our indigenous grapes, and of course, especially of Nebbiolo, which is such an extraordinary grape, able to express all the differences we have in our vineyards, and we want to exalt the differences. So we don't want our hand to be aggressive or important in the vinification. We use a new machine that we acquired in 2018, which is a destemming machine, but it is not a crushing machine. So we remove very carefully the green part, the stems. We very carefully avoid the stems to break inside, and we have whole berries. So a lot of control and respect of the integrity of the berries. The berries are not crushed; they are moved, transported into the tanks or into the tini. All the single vineyards, Barolo, we have all different wooden tini for the single vineyards. And we have alcoholic fermentation with whole berries. So we do not crush them, okay? And the alcoholic fermentation, luckily, generally starts naturally, so with no need to add any selected yeasts, so with natural yeasts. We just have temperature control, but this means that we just avoid the temperature to go over 30, 32 Celsius degrees. So if it's too high, we lower it. Otherwise, we don't control it. It's natural. And we do just 1-2 pumping overs, depending on the vineyards, depending on our decisions, to have stability of temperature and to oxygenate a little bit. So our maceration contact with the skin is generally very long, like it was in the past. We didn't change at all the philosophy. So it can be from 25 days to 28 to 30 days. Some vineyards, like Villero, we do the old technique, the submerged cap technique, maceration. So, and we can have 60, 65 days because we just is racking. We just had the racking like 10 days ago with our Villero, 1 week ago.
Yeah. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So are you using submerged cap on all of the Baroli?
No, just for Villero and with Bricco Chiesa, because the vineyards are a little bit larger vineyards, and so they allow us to do a correct submerged cap. Yeah. And all
and
the
then
other
you're using exclusively... Right. And so I think this is actually really, this one point I just want to clarify, the whole berry. So you're destemming with this machine that's a very gentle destemming, and then your whole berries are going into a fermentation tank, and you're never actually crushing the berries, right? You're allowing them to really crush themselves in a way.
Exactly. This is very important for us because we think that the complexity really comes from the integrity of the skin. So, of course, you need to have a very ripe and healthy grape to do so. And we want to preserve the whole berries and have a very slow and gradual natural maceration and crushing naturally without the machine. So we do not crush them. Yeah.
Okay. And Isabella, I want to make sure we talk about you specifically a little bit. So just to to end the vinification topic, you then all the wines age exclusively in large barrels, right? You use 25 hectoliter barrels. You have a lot of beautiful Stockinger barrels in the winery.
Yeah,
I think that's important.
Yeah, we use only big barrels. Of course, we have different sizes, different capacities because we have so many different vineyards with different production. We use mostly Austrian oak, so we use Stockinger. My aunt Christina, she was one of the first producers in the area to start using Stockinger in 2001. So we have
they're like the Ferrari of barrels.
Yeah, they are quite expensive. Yeah, of course, very high quality. And we have the big barrels for the Barolo Classico, so 100 hectoliter, 10,000 liter barrels, and 60 hectoliter, 40 hectoliter for the smallest vineyards, 25 hectoliter. Yes,
okay.
We also use a little bit of French oak. We started in 2004, but it
France?
is
What's
never.
Where's France?
Yeah, just a little bit, but never new oak, of course. For the Nebbiolo, we never use Nebbiolo with a new barrel.
Fantastic. All right, Isabella, I just want to, because this is a very little amount of time to talk about what is, I think, one of the most important things about your winery, which is you and your Aunt Christina. Christina, it has really brought this winery into the new era. I think that, without her intervention, the wines just continue to receive greater accolades and greater attention. And I think that's recognized by everybody. How do you see yourself as the future of the estate? How are you going to carry on basically this amazing legacy that Christina has really handed off to you as, the female heir to this estate?
Yeah, I have to say she really was one of the first pioneers in our area, one of the first women in the region to be finally responsible for the production. So when she started in the 90s, it was not easy at all for her. She had some difficulties with around family and with our older employees. Today, the scenario is completely different, and luckily, there are so many girls and women extremely talented. I have to say that most of the new wineries all the wineries in Barolo and Barbaresco, they are managed by women. So this is now more girls than men in Barolo. Yeah. I am learning a lot from her, like I did from my grandfather, and thanks also to the pandemic, I am learning more and more because I have more time. I am traveling a little bit less and focusing more. Yeah. So this is a positive thing because I am really learning in the vineyards and in the cellar, and I think I feel a lot the responsibility of what I received as a heritage. And of course, I try to have my voice in my everyday work. I acquired awareness of the importance of our region. And I think this is very important to have the awareness of the value of what we are lucky to do. And so I want to respect the vineyards, and I want to respect the history I have. I'm not just talking.
It's so great that you have this incredible history and this great this perspective, but it's also amazing how you guys are really a representative of the future of Barolo, especially with this element of this girl power behind it, which is fantastic. And like we said when we started this, Isabella, we could have filled hours talking about all of this. We could probably do another hour, but I know that our time is up. I think Joy is going to take it. We left no time really for questions, but I'm going to thank you so much for what was a really interesting conversation. There's so much more we could say. And hope maybe we'll have that chance again soon. I know I'll see you in person. So now I have more questions, but I'm going to turn it over to Joy, and thank you so much for your time today. That was a great chat.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Isabella. That was a great interview. Actually, I really enjoyed that, and I didn't even notice the time. There is indeed no time for questions, but I should probably just mention because of the holiday season, we're not going to have any live clubhouses in the next few weeks, but we will obviously have these on the podcast. So tune into the Italian Wine Podcast for those, but. On January 12th, we have an interview, Laura Donadoni, who will be interviewing Elisa Di Lavanzo. And on the 13th of January, we have Catherine Stratton interviewing Giulia Monteleone. So, of course, I hope you guys tune in for that. And you know what? Happy holidays. It's it's been a crazy year, and I wish you guys all the best. I'm gonna close up the room now, guys. And also, I forgot, Stevie. I know you can't actually talk to us because you're in Napoli, but yeah, I hope that it's going well down there, and you're eating lots of pizzas. She's actually trying out a million different pizzas, and she's documenting the whole thing. So all the best to her down there. Laika, I don't know if you can chime in. Are you there?
Yes, I'm still here. So thank you so much,
Okay.
Isabella. Thanks, Amy, and thanks, Joy, for a wonderful interview.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you,
It's an
guys.
honor. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
bye,
thanks
guys.
Bye
everybody.
to
Have a good
everybody.
holiday. Buon
Thank you.
Natale.
Bye.
Auguri.
Buon Natale.
Auguri. Bye
Thanks, guys.
bye. Bye. Buon Natale.
Auguri.
Buon Natale.
Buon Natale.
Sip, sip. While you drink, don't forget these tasting tips. Swirl.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.
Hi everybody! Italian Wine Podcast celebrates its 4th anniversary this year, and we all love the great content they put out every day. Cin Cin with Italian wine people has become a big part of our day, and the team in Verona needs to feel our love. Producing the show is not easy, folks. Herding all those hosts, getting the interviews, dropping the Clubhouse recordings, not to mention editing all the material. Let's give them a tangible fan hug with a contribution to all their costs. Head to ItalianWinePodcast.com and click donate to show your love.